Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Mike Jacques. Today, I'm absolutely honoured to have a very, very special guest to interview. His name is Phil Robinson. I met him via a online training platform, how to build online businesses, how I got started, how Phil got started. Became very good friends on a executive retreat down in South Africa. And I believe that's where Phil started to have this idea about building a global movement, which I'll explain, or we'll start to discuss in a minute. So Phil is the CEO of an organization called Saving Brothers. And Phil, if I could just ask you to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about yourself.
Mike, it's always a pleasure, brother, to catch up with you. And you're right. I can't believe it was probably the last time I had a decent trip. And that would have been, I reckon, October 2019 when we were in Cape Town together. And then, of course, actually, no, then we caught up in Australia on the Gold Coast in February 2020. And goodness me, hasn't the world changed a tad since then? Where I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I was just chatting with one of my buddies there yesterday. I said, "Pete, how you going?" He said, "Mate, I've got COVID fatigue. I've got we've been in lockdown in my city for about 215 days all up." So, as one of my buddies said to me, "Phil, guess what? It's only 7 more lockdowns till Christmas." so we really do need to find a little bit of humor, because we'll go quite bonkers otherwise. But Mike, look, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited because I think it's an opportunity for us to talk about some areas perhaps of a little bit of taboo, and that's men's health. Because I think, Mike, we as men, you and I as men, and we're in our 50s, and we have societal expectations of how we should act. And that's very much around our feelings, our vulnerability. Dare say you'd never want to cry, goodness me. And also, I think, if I may say, the recklessness about how we deal with our own health. And I'm not just talking about physical health, mental health as well, because I think one of the great challenges for us as men is it almost is frowned upon for us to be vulnerable in an employment situation. And I think vulnerability has often been accounted with being weak.
Yes. And
it's not really true at all. It's actually showing strength when you can be vulnerable. And so my personal journey, and Mike, you and I have chatted about our respective journeys, and being estranged from my children are 21 and 19, 2 sons, and going through a divorce, and what I would say is a fairly challenging divorce, going from having a beautiful big French provincial home, and what I would say is a lot of the trimmings of a nice middle-class lifestyle, nice cars, big house, beach house, travel, kids in a grammar school, and then making the challenging decision to leave a marriage after 22 and a half years and living in a 1-bedroom apartment for fear of not wanting to spend too much money and feeling guilty. I think these are things that men, more often than not, really, really struggle with. And we also struggle with being, I think, excommunicated somewhat, Mike, from our community.
Yeah.
And what I mean, Mike, by that is when you're going through a divorce, quite often the children and the wives, well, those women get to know each other when our children are in, say, primary school in the junior years, and the men come into the picture because they're off, in many cases, working. And so for me personally, finding that very difficult when the women sided with my ex-wife, and I understand why, and feeling very lonely and alone and not really knowing how to deal with that. I guess one of the key reasons why I founded Saving Brothers, quite frankly, Mike, I didn't want other men to feel the way that I felt.
Yeah, it's quite common. And you and I have got very similar backgrounds. Our stories are virtually identical, bar the dates and the time. So I know, which is probably why we clicked when we first met each other, because very, very similar backgrounds indeed, health-wise, relationship-wise, finance-wise. It's quite scary how our stories aligned. So what did you feel was actually missing for men? What was missing? How was Saving Brothers sort of filling a gap?
Yeah, well, I think if I can use my own story initially, and that was that I felt what I was doing in my business career, I felt quite empty. I felt like all I was doing was trying to accumulate, as we would say in Australia and perhaps in England the same, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And I liken it to when we did the sports carnivals as children. You'd be running the 100-meter dash or the swimming carnival, and you'd be looking in the lane next to see how your mates run, and you're trying to, you're comparing yourself to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I was that typical guy just on the treadmill, go, head down, go, 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 go. And particularly, I think, Mike, I started to have a bit of an epiphany in my 30s that I would be up and down a bit with my sales, because I was in sales.
Yeah.
And you were in software sales, if I recall.
Correct.
But I would feel somewhat empty. Is this all there is? I'd have these moments. Why am I doing this? Does it really matter? And I think as we get older, you do start to question, and we do talk about men having midlife crises, because I think they get to a point, Mike, of unfulfillment and almost let down. Like when we were kids, we had wonderful dreams, and we were going to be an astronaut, a police officer, whatever we wanted, we believed we could achieve.
Yeah.
But that gets knocked out of you emotionally and mentally, whether it be through the school system. A teacher says, oh, you're going to amount to nothing. You'll be no good, Robertson, or whatever. And I think we as Saving Brothers want to show men that you can create a meaningful life. But the first step, Mike, is self-care.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bit of a sense of martyrdom with men. We just tend to put ourselves last. It's not about being selfish, but it's more about stopping neglect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that whole area of neglect of validation that we're worthy as men, neglecting our health, neglecting our mental health, neglecting that it's valuable and cathartic to have a cry. I mean, I myself, Mike, I love to cry. Now, I'm not sitting in the gutter all day crying. What I'm talking about is knowing I'm in touch with where I'm at emotionally and how I feel. And I find it very cleansing and cathartic. I've spoken to doctors and various medical practitioners who say it's actually very healthy for your tear ducts and your body to cry.
Yeah.
And it's like
if it wasn't meant to be, we wouldn't be able to cry. It's there for a reason. It's there to get rid of stress, strain. It's there as a release mechanism, isn't it? So the trouble is, society's frowned upon, certainly in the West anyway, society's frowned upon men crying and showing their emotion, because that means you're weak and you're not tough, and you're supposed to be the leader, and the never cry and show strength, and that's peer pressure. That's stopping you using your full emotional spectrum.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to evaluate it. And you and I know a lady, Irene Webster.
We do.
And a beautiful lady that we both met through online marketing. And I remember sitting with Irene at the bar at the one and only hotel where you and I were staying with 25 other people in Cape Town. And one night I'm having a chat with her, and she said, Phil, just follow your heart. And I think in the past, men have often been afraid to lean in and follow their heart or their gut instinct. And very much what I've done with Saving Brothers is taken on board what Irene said, Mike, and that is listen intuitively, be quiet, be silent, and listen to what feels right, and have the courage to actually act that out. And that's really what I've done with this, is to say, guys, I'm making a stand for men's health. I don't want men to feel alone and lonely. And our tagline, as you know, Mike, in Saving Brothers is you matter.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate that every man's life, no matter where you're born, no matter what your color or creed, religion, sexuality, you are important. And the more that we, I think, can espouse that shift in attitude, I think that we actually will make the world a far kinder, more harmonious and forgiving planet.
That's good. So you've got another tagline as well, which I keep hearing, which is "Keep Five Alive." Can you tell us a bit about what's "Keep Five Alive"? What are you
Sure.
hoping to achieve with that tagline?
Yeah, tagline. And again, if I put my hand there, Mike, the hand signal of the Keep Five Alive, the idea actually came to me when I was out walking one day. Most of my ideas come on an early morning walk. And I started to think, how could I impact men? Because I know what we're like. We're procrastinators.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, I know, I'll get to it. Yep. I know I need to go to a doctor. I know, yep. And often we prioritize other things first. So my thinking was, imagine if we could create a system of accountability where we made it really simple and fun, where men just looked out for 5 of their friends, brothers, colleagues.
Okay.
And so what we're doing with Keep Five Alive, we're actually bringing out a wellness app for men. Okay. That's due for release next month. In fact, if you went to the Apple Store or Android, Google Play, you would actually be able to download the app, Saving Brothers. We just haven't turned it on because we're finalizing some API integrations. But the concept is there are 5 things we want men to do. And I've touched on it before, Mike. Self-care is number 1. How do you feel about you today out of 10? Acknowledge where you're at. If you're feeling fabulous, wonderful, enjoy it. If you're not feeling as great, okay, acknowledge where you're at and perhaps reach out to someone and share, ask for help. So that's number 1.
Sorry to interrupt. Why do you ask out of 10? Why don't you just ask, how you doing, brother? How you doing, mate?
Yeah, and that's a ripping question. I'm glad you actually asked it, because I think we come up with automated defensive responses. Now, in Australia, I don't know if you have this in the UK, but we have what's called Are You OK Day.
No, never heard of it.
Okay. And Are You OK Day is, if I ask you, are you okay, Mike?
Yeah, sure. I'm fine.
Now, it's a fairly closed-ended question. I'm not being disrespectful of that movement, by the way, but it's very easy for a man to just give a deflective answer. In Australia, most men would say, yeah, I'm fine, not bad, I'm good. And then off we go. But we really haven't learned anything at all about what his true state of mind is at. So the reason we wanted to quantify it as a numerical score is, one, we want men to stop and think rather than just, yeah, mate, I'm fine, and off they go and get on with their day, is actually get them to think, well, how do I really feel? And it's a much more open-ended question. So if I were to say, hey, Mike, how's your day going out of 10, brother? I can promise you, I do get men that say, oh, I'm flying. I'm an 8, I'm a 9. Great, I'm a 7. But I also, Mike, have been getting men that say, mate, I'm a 1, I'm a 2. And that's okay. At least now I've learned something. I've learned something is going on for that man in his life.
And now you need to ask some more questions. Now you need to strike up a conversation. Yeah.
You got it. So it would be like this. Well, brother, what's going on for you? And I want to give him a safe space to step Mike into his vulnerability. Just put the load down for a bit. The thing is, sometimes us as men, we're frightened that, oh my God, what if he does say he's not good? We're problem solvers. We think, I know women get frustrated with us because sometimes women just want us to listen, not try and give them the answer. We think they want the answer. No, they just want us to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we can
listen, I mean, it's a good point. Women constantly talk about their health and share their health worries and issues and thoughts. That's not a conversation 2 guys will have in a bar or anywhere else, sitting down in a cafe. You just don't talk about your health unless something physically is going on. You've got a broken arm, or you're undergoing major surgery. Then maybe you'd have a conversation about it. But as you say, if what you have is something that's mental, something that's really worrying you, something that's making you really depressed, it's not something a guy would share. Where you take those 2 guys out of that cafe, you put 2 women there, they'll talk about that for hours and hours on end, which is obviously very helpful for both parties. So can you give me some examples of the impact Saving Brothers is already having? Do you have any examples at all? I know it's a very new organization. We're just launching it, and part of this call is to help you launch this wonderful global organization. But I know you've been working hard on this for many, many months, a good 6 months, probably longer. Have you got any examples of, where you've had an impact?
Yeah, if actually to answer that, we started work on the platform almost 11 months ago, building the platform. Yeah. The answer is yes, Mike. And one of our brothers, his name's Frank. He's an ambassador for Saving Brothers, and he's based in Melbourne as well. I happen to know him. And he rang me and he said, Phil, mate, I just wanted to share a story with you. I've been bugging one of my buddies and telling him, mate, you've got to get in and see a doctor and get your bloods done, which I'll circle back to on part of the Keep Five Alive. And anyway, he'd been asking his brother, oh, mate, okay. And his brother finally went to the doctor. Now, 2 days later, he gets a message back from the fellow, and he says, hey, Frank, I've got a blockage 90% in one of my arteries.
Wow.
He then got a message from that fellow 2 days after that to say, I've been booked in on Thursday for a quadruple bypass. Now, I use this analogy, Mike. I used to have in the 80s, when the Gordon Gekko of the Wall Street movie,
yeah,
I had a Lancia HPE. I used to work on the trading floor of the Melbourne Stock Exchange. I thought I was pretty cool at 19. I had a sunroof in my car, for goodness sake. I thought I was hitting a bit at 19. And I remember driving back up the coastal road, and I hear this sound. I was silly boy. I wasn't putting oil in the engine oil sump. I had an oil leak. I basically blew up the engine, Mike. So my analogy is similar to that one with Frank. We can have a shiny Ferrari, nice big muscles, beautiful skin color. But at the end of the day, if you don't lift the hood up and check the engine, which is your internals, your body, you could be a ticking time bomb. And I would suggest that this fellow was a walking time bomb because of the blockages. He could have gone down with cardiac arrest at any time.
And even if it's not, I mean, that's a great example. And that conversation clearly saved that guy's life. He could have lasted another week, another month. But if that conversation didn't happen, clearly his heart was just going to stop, and that would have been finito, finished. So that's amazing. But sometimes it's not even physical. Sometimes you can be really young, clearly very healthy, and tragedy strikes. And I know you've been very close to this. We had a conversation a few weeks back, some horrendous stories, which I don't know whether you're comfortable diving in, but particularly in young men who are just going from childhood through adolescence, becoming a man, that pressure we discussed earlier on in this call is immense. And sometimes it's totally invisible, or it's dismissed as being a teenage moody, normal teenage mode. And sometimes it leads to tragedy. I don't know whether you want to share. If not, say you're not willing to share. But
no, I think it is important. I mean, this was an example of a young boy that I knew from when he was 3. And he went to the grammar school with my children, my 2 sons. And I used to holiday. We had a beach house. His family had a beach house. I was in Sydney probably a couple of months ago now. And I got a phone call from my ex-wife. I was at breakfast with a doctor, actually one of our resident coaches, a nutrition expert. And this particular boy, who was 19, had a very quiet young man, but a beautiful man, came from a very, very nice family, a large family, very close, loving family, chose to take his life. Now, I'd known him for 16 years, and I must admit, I sat there, I just burst into tears when my ex-wife told me, because I'd seen him from a 3-year-old boy up to on the verge of manhood. And this is the challenge. His family were completely, they were blindsided. They had no concept that he was facing or fighting any demons.
Yeah.
They thought he was just happy. He was a quiet boy, but there was no signs. Even that morning, he'd been having a conversation around buying property with Dad. So this is the thing, why it's so important. I feel our role at Saving Brothers is teaching men to engage and ask questions and help look out for each other and pick up the warning signs. I think one of the big problems is with men is the sense when there's that sense of hopelessness.
Yes.
When they feel that if it's financial hopelessness, it's estranged from children. I mean, we talk about it in Australia, men jumping off the roof of the family court because they just feel complete, that they just need to turn off the lights, so to speak.
I mean, you've been there as well. We have similar backgrounds to child estrangement as well. So it's very, very painful. And again, something that I don't talk to anybody. I think the only person I've ever spoken about it is you and maybe one other person. But it's probably the most painful part of my life, and I'm sure it is the most painful part of your life as well. And it comes in waves. Sometimes you don't think about it, and other times that's all you can think about. So it's yeah. But that going back to that tragedy, that young boy, and he was talking to his father about the future and investing in property and setting up a business with him. So he was looking forward to the future. Do you think if his father had learned to ask him, "Hey son, how's your day out of 10 every day?" You think he might have got an insight to, there's something wrong here. There's something more. I need to connect with my son. Do you think that would have helped?
It's an incredible question that you ask, and I really don't know if it would, because you're also dealing with whether the young guy is going to be honest with his father.
True.
But I think, and I do that with my own boys. I ask that question.
Yeah.
I think there would have been more chance that you could have detected that something perhaps wasn't quite right. But you're also relying on the honesty of that person to not want to cover up things, whether it be embarrassment, feeling shamed.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't think it would have been a destructive question.
No, I agree.
To ask. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the sort of structure of your organization. Clearly you're doing wonderful things and you're trying to spread wonderful messages and techniques for men to communicate effectively. But you've sort of structured the organization where you've got coaches, I think you've got doctors and other professionals to help members of Saving Brothers, whether it be financially, whether it be medically, whether it be from mental health, physical health. Just tell us a little bit about the structure and why you have coaches, why you have mentors, why you have ambassadors. Tell us a little bit about how it all works.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mike. Before I get to that, the number 3 thing, one of the biggest things in the Keep 5 Alive program, if I can close that off first, is actually really important. I just don't want to miss out on this opportunity. And that is that we want men to get proactive about going to a doctor every year.
Okay.
And that's number 3, which is getting men to go and get their bloods done every year, because around the world, too many men die unnecessarily from preventable illnesses. So number 3 on the Keep 5 Alive program is around getting men, Mike, to reclaim the sovereignty over their health. And that includes just getting their bloods done. One of the biggest indicators of illness for men is 3 key things: family history, family history, family history. And I've had multiple doctors say that to me, that if there is a family history of cancer or types of cancer or diabetes, for example, you've got to heed those warning signs. So we're actually bringing out an app, and I'd like to come back and I'll answer your question now, but it'd be good to talk about how that app can actually help men.
Yeah, please.
Because really quickly, women are brilliant with pap smears and mammograms. They just go. We tend to go to a doctor when our leg's about to fall off. So if we can get men using this app and to communicate with 5 brothers, that will save potentially millions of lives and stopping men dying unnecessarily. But I will now answer your question, and that was around the structure. Was we wanted to create a place for men and women to access resources.
Okay.
And those resources start out with editorial and blogs written by professionals under 3 key pillars, Mike: health, broken into physical and mental health, self, and wealth.
Okay.
So what we've got are professionals writing articles every month for Saving Brothers under those banners, those particular pillars. In addition to that, we know that women want access to information. And in fact, a number of people who have written articles for us have said, we really see Saving Brothers will become an incredible resource hub of information where you can access free resources on health, self, and wealth for men. In fact, Mike, I'm not sure if you knew, but a friend of ours, Jill, and who you know, Jill from Jill Humphreys from Wales, she said, Phil, did you actually know that women Google men's health more than men?
I can believe that.
Yeah, because they're wanting answers for the men in their lives. So we see that Saving Brothers will be a platform for women to access resources and also to direct the men in their lives to get help and be proactive and role models. So the idea was, I started to think, gosh, how can I take my knowledge of online marketing, the same training that you and I've done, build a platform with the skills. Whilst I haven't personally built it, I had the nous and the knowledge conceptually what to do. I just went and found better people than me at doing that.
Yeah.
And I basically found coaches and mentors, or what I call resident coaches, who can provide valuable services at a discount to market rates to professionals or to men across the globe around areas of physical health. So it could be, I've got a coach, for example, who looks after me in Australia. Her name's Catherine Nixon. AKA the sleep whisperer.
Okay.
I've got, for example, I've got obstructive sleep apnea. I use a CPAP machine with the mask on.
Yeah.
I don't sleep properly. So she's my coach. I've now got a diet coach working on my gut health. So these two women work together. They're both coaches at Saving Brothers. I've got other men that have dealt with personal trauma and abuse or psychological issues.
Yeah.
So we've got coaches and mentors there. I've got men that might be very successful, but they're either burned out or they're wanting to get to another level. So we've got professional peak performance corporate coaches.
Yeah.
We've got coaches experts in the workplace. Bullying is a problem.
Yes.
We got coaches working in that space. We got coaches, and you know Carrie, for example, coming on board from Sweden, Carrie Martins.
Yeah,
He's going to teach people, hey, maybe you want to learn to run 5 kilometers, 10K, 15, a marathon. He's only done.
That guy's got a story as well, hasn't he? From heart attack, back of the ambulance to running marathons every month. He's an incredible story, but we haven't got time to touch on that today.
That's right. So the structure was a place where men could take action, but all in one place. The concept around ambassadors was helping men and women who want to make a stand for men's health, provide them with the tools necessary to be able to go out to people and share the concepts of what Saving Brothers can offer, and at the same time earn revenue by helping men. And in fact, that program, which I know you're part of, we've developed 4 revenue streams. So what we've really done, because I know myself and I know you've been there, money is a big problem for a lot of people. The stress around money, the stress in the home, the stress physically on your body because you're worried about money, anxiety. That's an area that we wanted to address for men. And by addressing that for men and providing our ambassadorial opportunity is a way to help men and women generate cash flow every week, because we pay our ambassadors weekly.
Okay. So not only is then, just to recap on that and simplify that, not only is Saving Brothers a platform for men to connect and get useful information, resources, etc., whatever it is they're looking for, whether it's health, wealth, or self, as you already said, but it's also a way for them to actually earn an income. You can actually earn an income by promoting this platform to other friends, male friends, female friends, and actually start to, if it's a financial issue that you have, this platform even provides you with a potential side income, or maybe even a full-time income if you take it really seriously by promoting the platform that's helping them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. And like you, in the training you and I have gone through together, we built the system to support our ambassadors. So basically, all the content, we've actually created it for our ambassadors, because one of the things I thought about was it's one thing to want to make a stand and help, but how do you help? How do you communicate the message? So we've actually built a system that's so simple and user-friendly. It's literally a couple of clicks and sending out emails to people with articles and information. And that's a system that I know that you can help teach others so easily that why not do something that you're passionate about? I mean, the problem is a lot of us do work because we feel we have to do it, not because we want to do it.
And this is the reason why I wanted to interview as well, because I've interviewed people who have obviously built traditional e-commerce businesses. I've interviewed people who've built affiliate marketing businesses, which is selling other people's product and services. And I've also talked to people who've built coaching courses. They want to sell, what they have in their mind, their skills, their knowledge, and build traditional coaching courses. But you've built, it's sort of coaching, but you've built a business around your passion. You had the same idea as me to do affiliate marketing or to do e-commerce, and we were on the same training course together. And we even invested a lot of time and money to do advanced marketing, advanced training. But you've just gone off on a tangent, which is a wonderful tangent, and managed to leapfrog all of that and go straight to your passion, which is saving brothers, and build a business around that. But more importantly, build something that's going to be a legacy, as I see it, for men for decades, hopefully many, many decades to come. What a wonderful, wonderful thing that you've done for yourself and for men all around the world.
No, I appreciate that, Mike. And I like to think it's not just for men, because when you've got a well-functioning male, you're then going to be a better husband, father, employee, employer. You're going to I think you're going to contribute better to society. And that's really important, I think.
Now there's another phase. I know you've hinted at or been mentioning, murmuring. I don't know whether you want to speak about it now, but there's you're already looking ahead, and what can we do next as a sort of next phase of Saving Brothers? I don't know whether you want to share that now on this call. I've only got 5 minutes left. I've got another call coming up, but if you've got time to share that, I'll be very grateful.
I think you're talking about Saving Little Brothers. Is that what?
Yes, I am. I was hinting at that.
Okay, great. Oh, that's awesome. I think the thing is, if you go back to the pre-industrial revolution, men worked in the fields and the boys worked there with their uncles. And what did they say? It takes a village to raise a young man. The Industrial Revolution came along, and men went off to work in the mines, or the pit, as they used to call it. Men would go into industry and leave the children behind, and the mothers would typically raise them. And I think there's been a real disjointed, a discontinuation, if you like, of the values, even of resilience and the mentoring and the skills passed through the generations. And so the concept at phase 2 is Saving Little Brothers. And that's about giving boys good role models, teaching them, mentoring them, resilience, helping our boys become good teenagers, and then ultimately become good young men. If we can get these boys early, there's less chance they're going to make poor decisions, be a burden to themselves, to society. Hopefully we keep more boys away from jails and make better decisions. And let's hope we actually make the world a better place. So Saving Little Brothers is a very, very important part of where the journey's headed, for sure.
Great. You're a wonderful human being, Phil. I'm really, really pleased and glad that I met you, had the opportunity to meet you in person. I've done a few times now. Thank you for spending so much time with me today and explaining about Saving Brothers. I'm going to be promoting the hell out of it, I assure you. And just really, really proud to be associated with you and associated with this wonderful platform that you built. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure to catch up. And always remember, keep 5 alive, as they say. Where's my hand? There you go. All right. Take care, everyone. See you, mate.
Thank you, Phil. Bye-bye.
Bye.